Ladies and gentlemen, ESPN has messed up severely in their rankings of these 10 players that we're about to go over in this video. These 10 guys, in my opinion, are almost a guarantee to outperform their rankings on ESPN. But without further ado, we're going to get right into it. Make sure if you're new to this channel, hit that subscribe button and drop a like on this video. At the end, of course, if you did enjoy the content. All right, everybody, the first player on our list today is Jir Gibbs. He's currently going as running back number 12 on ESPN. Overall, he's going as number 31. Now, in the last 23 years, 51 running backs have been selected in round one of the NFL draft, 4 of which have finished with more than 300 fantasy points, 9 of which have scored over 250 fantasy points, and 15 of which posted more than 200 fantasy points. As a percentage, if we add all those up, obviously, this is in PPR formats, by the way, that's going to equal 55% of players. All right. ESPN has his prediction right now set at 214.6 PPR fantasy points and averaging 15.3 fantasy points per game. Now, if he comes in the top 10 of running backs this season, he would be within the mean. He would have to be an outlier to finish outside of the top 10 running backs in fantasy football this season. All right, if we dig a little bit deeper here, we find that among the top 15 first-round rookie running back seasons, 10 of them were from players selected in the top 10 of their respective drafts. Jir Gibbs went as number 12, so just outside that number 10 marking. That's 67% of running backs within the top 10. Now, the other 5 runners were picked between number 24 overall and number 31 overall. So Jir Gibbs in this situation could actually be the outlier. Now, I have 2 charts that I want to go over quickly right here. Number 1 is the end of season rankings, better than average draft position for each year of running backs' NFL experience. As you can see, the years go on for running backs. We know where to accurately assess them and gauge where they should be going in these fantasy football drafts. But in the beginning of their career, there's so much higher of a percentage that they're going to outperform their ADP. You can see it's about 55% in year number 1. Doesn't matter if the running back is a starter or not a starter. All right, there's a 55% chance, if we take these 2 lines here in year number 1, that he's going to outperform his ADP. Now, this next graph here is average games missed per season per player, and you can see year number 1, the rookie season, the average games missed is around 1.5, whereas every other season of their career in the NFL is over 2. So you have the least likely chance for an injury in year number 1 compared to any other year, which makes me much more confident in drafting a rookie running back this early on. Another thing that's being very overlooked, the Lions actually changed the turf at Ford Field this season to make it safer to prevent injuries. All right. In the past, the Lions running backs have had a history of injuries. That's why no Lions running back has stayed healthy within the longest time. I mean, dating all the way back to, I don't even know who the last good Lions running back was other than Barry Sanders. All right. Jir Gibbs also averaged 11.7 yards per reception in college and over 5.5 rushing yards per attempt. So he's very efficient on the ground and, of course, very efficient through the air. We're going to have to wait to see if he has the same sort of success as Alvin Kamara. Everybody's comparing him to Kamara. We'll just have to see what happens. Number 2 on our list today, Kenneth Walker. He's going as running back number 21 on ESPN, overall number 52. Listen, everybody is extremely nervous about Zach Charbonnet coming in and splitting carries with Kenneth Walker, but I think we're getting him at a severe discount right here. Now, he's listed as the starting running back in an article that we just saw. He is going as number 52 overall, like I said, on ESPN. 2 weeks ago, you could have even got this guy when he was in the overall number 60s, while on Sleeper, he's sitting around the 40s, and he's been sitting around the 40s. So it shows me that he's extremely undervalued on ESPN leagues. He's going after players such as James Conner, who is on a bad team, Miles Sanders, who is on a bad team, Alvin Kamara, who's suspended and played pretty poorly last season. I'm going to take my risk on Kenneth Walker. He rushed for over 1,000 yards last season, and he only started in 11 games. Do you guys really think the Seahawks are going to draft a running back just to split carries with a guy that's that explosive like that? When he had the chances from week 6 on, he clearly was the most explosive back on this entire team and carried at the running back position. So Kenneth Walker, I think, will easily outperform this ADP of running back number 21. Number 3 today, J.K. Dobbins. He's going as running back number 29, and overall he's going as number 77. He's finally feeling 100% healthy. His competition is pretty weak with Gus Edwards right behind him. I don't expect him to get his role taken anytime soon. This team is very good at running the ball, and they like to do so a lot. He's expected to be more involved in the passing game than ever, which is good. Now, this guy has only started in 9 games in 3 years in the league so far. Now, to some people that might scare you off, but in my opinion, that is turning me on even more to J.K. Dobbins because it's more of an opportunity, all right? Not a lot of guys are keeping J.K. Dobbins in mind just because he's missed that much time and they're worried that it could happen again. Well, if we did that for everybody, if we did that a couple seasons ago for Saquon Barkley, we would have never drafted him last year and had him explode the way he did and probably be one of the leaders of your fantasy football team. Now, Dobbins also averages 5.9 yards per carry, which is crazy to think about, and he's behind a top 5 O-line in the NFL, and the Ravens, like I said, are known for running the ball. Now, his upside is much higher than people in his range that he's going around, in my personal opinion, like Isaiah Pacheco, because he has Jerick McKinnon eating into the passing work. David Montgomery, he will be good this year, but I don't think his upside is nearly as much as a guy like J.K. Dobbins because he has Jir Gibbs there now. Cam Akers, another situation where the team is bad. Overall talent is good, but the overall team is bad. Javonte Williams coming back from that surgery, from that knee injury. Once again, a team that is going to be poor. I'd rather have a guy like Dobbins. Next up, number 4, DeAndre Swift. He's going as running back number 34 on ESPN. Overall, number 85 on ESPN. Now, he's going around players like Brian Robinson Jr., for example, who is going to get his carries eaten up and, well, maybe not his carries eaten up, but his passing attempts eaten up by Antonio Gibson. Khalil Herbert, we don't even know if it's his job at the moment. Roschon Johnson is there, and then we got Deonta Foreman that's there as well, and then A.J. Dillon. A.J. Dillon is not going to be the feature back on this team unless anything happens to Aaron Jones, and, he's not going to be that guy until Aaron Jones retires, basically. The Eagles have the number 1 offensive line in all of football. Swift averaged 5.5 yards per carry last season. He had over 40 receptions every year so far in the league. Now, he hasn't started in every game in any year in the league so far, but he's also only 24 years old. This is another situation similar to Dobbins, where a lot of people might be turned off because of his injury risk potential. I don't see that being the case. I think this is more of an opportunity than anything else. Now, last season, he averaged 13.6 fantasy points per game. All right, that was his worst season yet, and ESPN is projecting him 11.6 PPR fantasy points per game this season. They are extremely overlooking and disrespecting DeAndre Swift. If he can have similar of a year that Miles Sanders did last season, I think Swift is more talented than Miles Sanders in my personal opinion. Come on, that's way too low for DeAndre Swift here. Number 5, Devonte Smith, going as wide receiver number 15 on ESPN and overall number 25 on ESPN. Now, ESPN is projecting him to score 14.6 PPR fantasy points per game. He's going into year number 3 of his career, all with the Eagles. The whole time, his connection with Hurts was growing, and he's becoming more confident in himself as a player. Last year, he averaged 15 PPR fantasy points a game while scoring a whopping 0 points in week 1. So you have to consider that into that average. Now, down the stretch of last season, weeks 13 to 18, this guy was an absolute machine. I realized Dallas Goedert was out for a portion of that time, but I still don't think it affects it that much. This guy had 100 receiving yards in the Super Bowl, by the way. The biggest game of the year, he comes up with 100 receiving yards. Now, it might be crazy, but I think he finishes ahead of players around him, such as T. Higgins, DK Metcalf, perhaps, and also Jalen Waddle. All right, I'm going to go out on the limb and say that Devonte Smith could easily finish within the top 10 wide receivers this season. Number 6 on our list is a guy I really like. George Pickens, going as wide receiver number 35 on ESPN, overall number 81 on ESPN. Last season, this might be a little disrespectful to Steelers fans, but that might have been the worst 9-8 team that I've ever seen in my life. There was just so many things going wrong. Deontay Johnson ended up scoring 0 touchdowns the entire year. Najee wasn't playing up to his standards set in his rookie year. Kenny Pickett was a rookie that was struggling at times in the season. And throughout all that noise, George Pickens still sat right around 10 fantasy points per game. Okay? And that isn't eliminating the fact that he had 3 to 4 weeks where he scored less than 3 fantasy points. Now, the consistency with the targets is all you need here, and you got yourself a stud that can easily be the Steelers' number 1 wide receiver. No offense to Deontay Johnson. I think he's a great player, but George Pickens is the more talented guy right here, in my opinion. Now, I'm going to take him over players such as, he's going in the range of Jerry Jeudy. He's out for 6 weeks. You're expecting Jerry Jeudy to come back and score that many more points than a guy like George Pickens. Michael Pittman Jr. is going right around him with a rookie quarterback. And Pittman has had a lot of problems with drops. Okay, this is just a bad overall team. Same with Marquise Brown. I like Hollywood Brown as a player, but I'm taking George Pickens. I'm taking the year 2 breakout for Pickens and Pickett over these players. Number 7 on our list, Drake London, going as wide receiver number 31 and number 68 overall on ESPN. The Falcons last season had the lowest passing percentage out of every team in the entire league. And you know what? London still sat around 10.5 fantasy points per game. And on 5 of those games, he had less than 5 targets. All right. Now, there is obviously concerns about Bijan Robinson getting drafted, Desmond Ridder being, basically his rookie season here coming into the league. You can use that to your advantage. All right. A lot of people think that this is going to be the exact same situation as last year. They have to throw the ball a bit more. They really do, to keep balance in this offense. Now, he's going just a few spots above George Pickens. But I think if he was on a different team, it would be a much different situation for Drake London. All right, I would be putting him up in that Christian Watson type range. That's how talented this guy is as a player. Now, the talent isn't concerned. Like I said, it's just the targets. The targets are the only risk here for Drake London and this Falcons team. We'll have to see how it plays out in this upcoming year. But if he gets those targets, I can easily see him being a top 20 wide receiver. Now, number 8 on this list is a guy that you're probably pretty sick of hearing about from me, but it's going to be Jahan Dotson. He's going as wide receiver number 38 on ESPN, which is way too low in my opinion. Overall, number 84. Now, I said it in my wide receiver rankings video. This guy could be easily top 25 or top 20 even, in my opinion. In the 10 games that he started last season, he caught 7 touchdowns and averaged 10.9 fantasy points per game, all while having weeks where he scored 3, 2.4, 2.6, and 0. And you know exactly why that is. It's because he didn't get targeted, and he had a mediocre quarterback in Carson Wentz and Taylor Heineke throughout the entire season. And he missed 5 games due to injury. Can you imagine what he would have finished if he was healthy all those games and got the correct amount of targets? That's what I'm expecting this year. Now, Sam Howell looks like the best QB that this Commanders team has had in a while, and they already have a great connection, Dotson and Sam Howell. Also, the Terry McLaurin turf toe incident the other day scares me. All right, it really scares me for Terry as a player himself, which turns me even more on to Jahan Dotson potentially being the number 1 wide receiver in Washington by the end of the season. Number 9 on our list is Zay Flowers. He's currently going as wide receiver number 47 on ESPN, overall number 106. He's having a phenomenal preseason so far. Now, obviously, preseason doesn't matter too much, but at least it's positive news. It's not any negative news for him. Now, if we take a look at some stats here, at the top 15 first-round rookie wide receiver seasons, 7 of them were selected in the top 10 of their respective drafts, and 3 others were picked in the top 17. That's 67% of the top 15. The other 5 went between numbers 22 and number 28. Now, Justin Jefferson, coincidentally enough, in 2020 was picked number 22. Does that mean something for Zay Flowers because he was picked number 22 in the 2023 draft? I'm not too sure. But if Zay Flowers can even be half of what Jefferson is now, we're going to get a steal in this draft. Now, some other information that I found interesting. Odell led all first-year wideouts with an average of 24.6 points per game. He's the lone wideout to average over 20 points per game, although he did it in 12 games as opposed to the full 16 contests. 2 wideouts, Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson, averaged over 17 points. So you're not expecting Zay Flowers to average over 20 points a game. You're not expecting him to average over 15 points a game. But even if he can sit around that 10 to 12 fantasy points a game mark, then you're pretty happy with that. All right, in his first year. And personally, if it was me, I'd be taking the shot at the diamond in the rough. What if he is that Odell Beckham? You never know. Lamar finally has some weapons. Maybe Zay Flowers and Lamar Jackson will form that elite connection, and he can be once-in-a-lifetime player. Now, he had over 1,000 yards receiving at Boston College in his final year. On average, his catches were over 15 yards per reception, and the Ravens definitely are in need of a consistent deep threat. Odell's getting a little older now. You don't know if he's going to be the guy running those go routes. Zay Flowers is clearly going to be the most explosive pass catcher on this team. Now, he's drawn some comparisons to Stephon Diggs, but personally, I think he's reminded me a little bit of a Deshaun Jackson on the Eagles type of player. Now, he's going right around players such as Jacoby Myers, for example, which How is Jacoby Myers going ahead of this guy? Juju Smith-Schuster and Michael Thomas. Take the shot on this guy. Over those other players, if you have Zay Flowers available in your draft, he could definitely outperform these players. Last but not least on our list today, number 10, Elijah Moore, currently going as wide receiver number 54 on ESPN and overall number 120. So in 2021, he averaged 12.6 PPR fantasy points per game with subpar QB play at best. If we're being really generous, it's subpar. All right, last year with the Jets, he was barely used at all. I don't know what was going on, but this season with the Browns, they plan on using him a lot more. And if Watson can return even anywhere close to his form on the Texans, Moore should be very hard to stop this season. He could easily be put into the top 45 wide receivers, in my opinion. He's going around players like Nico Collins, for example, on a terrible Texans team. Darnell Mooney on a team that doesn't throw the ball a lot at all. And then he's going near Rondell Moore, who is also on a very poor team. Now, if you guys agreed or disagreed with any of the information in this video, make sure to leave it down in the comments section below. Also, subscribe to the channel if you're new and drop a thumbs up on this video. I will catch you in the next one. Good luck in your fantasy football seasons. Peace.